1. Marilyn Monroe was born on June 1, 1926, in Los Angeles, California. 2. Her birth name was Norma Jean Mortensen, later changed to Norma Jean Baker. 3. She grew up in foster homes and experienced a challenging upbringing. 4. Monroe started her career as a model, and her first photo shoot was for Yank magazine during World War II. 5. She signed her first film contract with 20th Century Fox in 1946. 6. Monroe appeared in over 30 films throughout her career. 7. She became one of Hollywood's most iconic sex symbols of the 1 in 950 seconds and 1 that in 960 seconds. 8. Some of her famous films include Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, The 7-Year Itch, and Some Like It Hot. 9. Monroe was married 3 times. Her husbands were James Dougherty, Joe DiMaggio, and Arthur Miller. 10. She famously sang Happy Birthday to President John F. Kennedy in 1962 during his birthday celebration at Madison Square Garden. 11. Monroe founded her own production company called Marilyn Monroe Productions. 12. She studied acting at the Actors Studio in New York and worked with acting coach Lee Strasberg. 13. Monroe's clothing size is often mythologized, but her official measurements were reported to be 35'22". 14. She had a fear of flying and would often travel by train for long distances. 15. Monroe struggled with mental health issues throughout her life, including depression and anxiety. 16. She had numerous artistic pursuits, including writing poetry and painting. 17. Monroe won a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress for her role in Some Like It Hot. 18. She was paid a record-breaking $1 million to star in the film Something's Got to Give before her death. 19. Monroe had relationships with several notable men, including Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando, and Yves Montand. 20. She was a close friend of photographer Milton H. Green and appeared in many iconic photographs taken by him. 21. Monroe worked closely with acting coach Paula Strasberg, wife of Lee Strasberg, and credited her as a mentor. 22. She was influenced by actresses such as Jean Harlow and Clara Bow. 23. Monroe was known for her breathy voice and iconic blonde hair. 24. In 1954, she married baseball legend Joe DiMaggio, but the marriage ended in divorce after only 9 months. 25. Monroe had a strong interest in psychoanalysis and was in therapy for several years. 26. She was known for being late on film sets but was also praised for her professionalism when she did show up. 27. Monroe was named the top box office star in the world for 1953 and 1956. 28. She often struggled with her self-image and dealt with body image issues throughout her life. 29. Monroe had a close relationship with her acting coach, Lee Strasberg, and left her estate to him in her will. 30. She underwent several plastic surgeries throughout her life, notably a chin implant and a nose job. 31. Monroe was an advocate for civil rights and was the first woman to own her own production company in Hollywood. 32. She sang and danced in many of her films, showcasing her talent as a performer. 33. Monroe was known for her playful and flirtatious screen persona, which contrasted with her real-life shyness. 34. She was briefly institutionalized in 1961, but continued working on her film career after her release. 35. Monroe's last completed film was The Misfits in 1961, which was written by her husband Arthur Miller. 36. She performed for American troops in Korea during the Korean War and visited wounded soldiers in military hospitals. 37. Monroe had a close relationship with her mother, Gladys Baker, despite the difficulties in their lives. 38. She was never nominated for an Academy Award during her lifetime but has since become an icon of Hollywood. 39. Monroe had a well-publicized affair with President John F. Kennedy while he was in office. 40. She was friends with fellow actresses Jane Russell and Ella Fitzgerald. 41. Monroe struggled with addiction issues and abuse of prescription medications. 42. She frequently changed her appearance, experimenting with different hairstyles, makeup, and fashion trends. 43. Monroe was the first Playboy centerfold and appeared on the magazine's first cover in 1953. 44. In 1955, Monroe formed a production company with Milton H. Green called Marilyn Monroe Productions. 45. She had an intense fear of being forgotten and wanted to be remembered as more than just a sex symbol. 46. Monroe was notoriously difficult to work with on film sets, often causing delays and conflicts. 47. She was often compared to legendary actress and sex symbol Jean Harlow due to their similar blonde bombshell personas. 48. Monroe's death in 1962 was ruled as a probable suicide due to a drug overdose. 49. There are many conspiracy theories surrounding Monroe's death, including allegations of murder. 50. Her estate continues to earn millions of dollars annually through licensing and merchandising. 51. Monroe's iconic white dress from the 7-year itch sold at auction in 2011 for $5.6 million. 52. She had a close friendship with actor and singer Dean Martin. 53. Monroe posed for one of the most famous photographs in history, Marilyn Monroe with the white scarf, taken by Sam Shaw. 54. She had a tumultuous relationship with her third husband, playwright Arthur Miller, and they divorced in 1961. 55. Monroe struggled with fertility issues and had multiple miscarriages during her life. 56. She appeared on the cover of Life magazine 6 times. 57. Monroe was known for her generosity and frequently donated to various charities. 58. She was a pet lover and had several dogs throughout her life. 59. Monroe had a ventriloquist dummy named Maff, short for Mafia Honey, which was a gift from Frank Sinatra. 60. She had a famous mole on her face, which she occasionally highlighted with makeup. 61. Monroe's final residence, where she died, was a house in Brentwood, Los Angeles, known as the Marilyn Monroe House. 62. She owned a library of over 400 books, focusing on literature, poetry, and psychology. 63. Monroe was musically talented and played the piano and the ukulele. 64. She was insecure about her acting abilities and often sought validation from her directors. 65. Monroe was often portrayed as a dumb blonde in her films, but in reality, she was intelligent and well-read. 66. She had a fascination with astrology and consulted astrologers regularly. 67. Monroe had a close friendship with actress and singer Ella Fitzgerald and helped her secure a performance at the Macambo nightclub. 68. She often struggled with body dysmorphia and would obsessively measure different parts of her body. 69. Monroe's iconic dress from the 7-year itch sold at auction in 1999 for $4.6 million. 70. She wanted to be taken seriously as an actress and worked hard to challenge the stereotype of the dumb blonde. 71. Monroe was named the sexiest woman of the century by People magazine in 1999. 72. She was deeply interested in spirituality and explored various religions and philosophies. 73. Monroe was one of the first celebrities to market her own merchandise, including clothing, accessories, and beauty products. 74. She worked on her autobiography, My Story, but it was never completed and published. 75. Monroe owned a stuffed poodle named Math, short for Mafia Honey, which she received as a gift from Frank Sinatra. 76. She had a close relationship with her acting coach, Paula Strasberg, and often sought her guidance in both personal and professional matters. 77. Monroe had a brief relationship with President-elect John F. Kennedy's brother, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy. 78. She appeared on the cover of Playboy magazine in 1953, but the photos were from an earlier photo shoot before she was famous. 79. Monroe had a close friendship with photographer Milton H. Green, who took some of her most famous photographs. 80. She was known for her love of champagne and often had a glass with her during interviews. 81. Monroe was frequently photographed by famous photographers, including Richard Avedon and Bert Stern. 82. She had a fear of crowds and would often experience panic attacks in public settings. 83. Monroe's last film, Something's Got to Give, was never completed due to her death. The film was later remade as Move Over, Darling with Doris Day. 84. She often struggled with insomnia and would take sleeping pills to help her sleep. 85. Monroe's beauty mark on her face was not natural. She penciled it on to enhance her facial features. 86. She had a close friendship with fellow actress Jane Russell, and the two co-starred in the films Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and How to Marry a Millionaire. 87. Monroe was known for her flirtatious and provocative poses in photographs, which helped solidify her image as a sex symbol. 88. She was a fan of classical music and enjoyed listening to composers like Beethoven and Mozart. 89. Monroe struggled with chronic pain and underwent multiple surgeries throughout her life, including a gallbladder removal and a hysterectomy. 90. She often struggled with stage fright and would experience severe anxiety before performing. 91. Monroe had a close relationship with her fans and would frequently correspond with them through letters and autographs. 92. She was known for her iconic fashion choices, including dresses with plunging necklines and form-fitting silhouettes. 93. Monroe had a notoriously messy personal life, filled with tumultuous relationships and public scandals. 94. She was an influential figure in fashion and beauty, setting trends with her makeup, hairstyles, and wardrobe choices. 95. Monroe was known for her love of animals and had several pets, including dogs, cats, and birds. 96. She often struggled financially early in her career and relied on modeling and small film roles to make ends meet. 97. Monroe was famous for her trademark walk, which she called her wiggle walk, and she worked hard to perfect her on-screen presence. 98. She had an affair with her The Misfits co-star, Clark Gable, while he was still married. 99. Monroe was considered a fashion icon and was named the second most iconic woman of all time by Variety magazine. 100. She had a close working relationship with photographer Tom Kelly, who photographed her for the first Playboy centerfold. 101. Monroe continues to be a cultural icon and is remembered for her timeless beauty and lasting impact on popular culture.